Divine Talisman Grandmaster. CH1. CH1 bless you. Shofin, here are the cultivation resources for next month, Lixing said, extending the frayed cloth bag toward the girl with the orchid-like aura. He was slightly out of breath, his face showing signs of fatigue. Shofin glanced down at the tattered bag in Lixing's hand, her gaze lingering on the dark stains marring its surface. A complex emotion flickered in her striking black and white eyes, and she hesitated to take the bag. Noticing Shofin's reluctance, Lixing's lips tightened. I just got off a part-time job and rushed over. I didn't have a chance to. Lixing, what's your brain domain development at? And how many of the teacher's low-grade yellow-level runes have you mastered? Shofin cut him off abruptly. She wasn't in the mood for explanations, they seemed pointless and unnecessary. Lixing met her gaze, momentarily taken aback. It was the first time Shofin had shown interest in his cultivation progress since high school began. Despite the oddness of the moment, he answered her honestly. We've known each other since childhood. Aren't you aware of my capabilities by now? My brain domain is only a 25% development, and I've barely managed to master one clear water rune from the yellow-level low-grade runes our teacher taught us. Though Lixing spoke with a semblance of openness, his heart was heavy with discontent. Since high school, he had thrown himself into learning about brain domain development and meditation runes. Every waking moment outside of class and part-time work was dedicated to his studies, with sleep limited to a mere 3 hours a night. Despite his relentless effort, his achievements were modest at best. 2.5 years into high school, the average student's brain domain had reached about 40%, but Lixing was stuck at 25%. With the college entrance exams looming in 6 months, his prospects were grim. If his brain domain development didn't improve, he risked missing out on university admission, relegating him to a vocational school and dashing any hopes of becoming a cultivator. Shofin, a fellow child from the slums, revealed an extraordinary aptitude for cultivation upon entering high school. Her brain domain development had soared to 65%, and she had mastered 9 low-grade yellow-level runes and 4 medium-grade yellow-level runes. A prodigy in the elite class, she was revered as the goddess of Skyhaven's Forest Lake Academy. Lixing's admission to Forest Lake Academy was a direct result of Shofin's influence, and he had always harbored deep gratitude for her. When he learned of her exceptional talent, he invested all his hard-earned money into cultivation resources to support her training, as a way to repay her past kindness. Shofin's brow furrowed slightly as she listened to Lixing's candid response. She seldom monitored his cultivation progress and was taken aback by his poor performance. To get into a prestigious university, you must develop your brain domain to at least 50% during high school, she advised. Additionally, you should master at least 5 low-grade yellow-level runes and 2 medium-grade yellow-level runes. Given your current standing, it seems almost certain that university, and the path to becoming a cultivator, is out of reach for you. In the boundless cosmos, where cultivators from 3,000 great worlds hold runes in the highest esteem, mastery over these runes is essential to qualify as a true cultivator. The rate of brain domain development is crucial to the pace at which one can control runes. The more advanced the brain domain, the quicker the mastery of runes and the more precise the control over their power. Thus, the level of brain domain development is often the deciding factor in one's potential to become a cultivator. With Lixing's current level, his future as a cultivator, and his eligibility for university study, was in jeopardy. Lixing was well aware that his chances of attending university and pursuing cultivation were slim, given his academic record. Yet, he refused to abandon hope as long as the college entrance exam loomed ahead. He believed in the principle that hard work would be rewarded by the heavenly Tao, and until the final verdict was in, he clung to the possibility of turning his fate around. Lixing's resolve was unshakable, no one could weaken his faith and determination. Ads by PubFuture. When Lixing remained quiet, Shofin worried that her words had wounded his pride. She sighed gently, keep these cultivation resources for yourself. You don't need to provide any for me from now on. Surprised, Lixing glanced at Shofin and responded, your goal is to get into one of the top 6 universities. You need these resources more than I do. Admission to the Elite 6 was reserved for geniuses, and while Shofin's grades were impressive, her chances of securing a spot were uncertain. The cultivation resources were crucial for her. Lixing, accept the truth. We can't be together. Shofin's brow furrowed as she spoke firmly, in 6 months, the college entrance exams will be over. I'll make it into the top 6 and become a rare cultivator. You, on the other hand, will only get into a vocational college, becoming just another face in the crowd. We're not meant to share a world. No matter how kind you are to me, my feelings won't change. Let go. Lixing was taken aback, not expecting Shofin to misinterpret his intentions. He began to clarify with a smile, Shofin, you've got it all wrong, But as Lixing attempted to explain, Shofin's expression turned stern. We shouldn't see each other anymore. I don't want Zhongtu to get the wrong idea. I'll be honest with you, I've agreed to be his girlfriend after high school. He's going to supply me with an abundance of cultivation resources. Plus, this summer, I'll have the chance to learn the low-grade profound level runes that the Zhong family has passed down. I'll be exposed to a higher realm far sooner than my peers. Do you grasp what I'm saying? Runes were categorized into 4 levels: heaven, earth, black, and yellow. The yellow level was merely basic, while the profound level marked the true commencement of cultivation. Only those who mastered profound level runes were considered genuine cultivators. Shofin's words were a stark reminder to Lixing of the harsh reality: a future together was out of the question. Witnessing the resolute expression on Shofin's face, Lixing couldn't help but smile. He had diligently provided cultivation resources for Shofin, motivated solely by a desire to repay a debt of gratitude. Not once had he harbored any inappropriate thoughts about her. Although he had intended to make things clear before, he now realized that there was no longer any need for explanations. If that's how it is, I wish you all the best, Lixing said, offering a warm smile along with his well wishes. Clutching his tattered cloth bag, he turned and walked away. As Sha Shofan watched Lu Lixing's retreating figure, her heart was surprisingly devoid of relief. Instead, a subtle sense of regret crept in, as though she had let something precious slip through her fingers. Contact. 2s. Hot deals, cold days. January savings on trending looks. Graph. January fashion finds. Big styles. Small prices. Graph. Divine Talisman Grandmaster. C2. C2C of runes. Riding on the massive rune train bound for home, Lu Lixing gazed out the window at the swiftly passing urban sprawl, a hint of bewilderment creeping into his eyes. His confusion stemmed not from severing ties with Sha Shofan, but from the uncertainty of how to enhance his abilities enough to secure a university spot before the college entrance exams loomed. In a day's 24 hours, aside from 3 for sleep, Lu Lixing devoted 10 to work and another 10 to cultivation, leaving just a single hour for meals and rest. This rigorous routine had persisted for 2.5 years, yet the adage, "the early bird catches the worm," seemed to falter in his case. The strides he made in 10 hours of diligent cultivation paled in comparison to what his classmates achieved in 2, not to mention the prodigies in the elite class. Most would have abandoned cultivation and resigned themselves to their lot, but Lu Lixing was cut from a different cloth. Emerging from the slums, he understood that mastering cultivation was his sole avenue to alter his destiny. Surrender was not an option, he was resolute in his pursuit. Previously, Lu Lixing had allocated the lion's share of his cultivation resources to Sha Shofan, sparing only a scant amount for his own use. Now that Shofan no longer required his contributions, the resources at his disposal each month had significantly increased. With this newfound wealth of resources, he was certain his strength would surge in a short span. Mulling over his cultivation prospects, Lu Lixing instinctively reached into his frayed canvas bag, withdrawing a quaint, palm-sized bronze box. Clutching the box, brimming with ancient charm, a wave of relief washed over him. He had nearly parted with this treasured family relic that had been his companion since childhood. He had once intended to sell the bronze box to repay Shofan's generosity and boost her chances of entering one of the prestigious Big Six. But with their connection severed, there was no longer a reason to let go of the box. "Old pal," he murmured to the box, "today, you were almost sold. After all these years, you remain a mystery to me. What secrets do you hold within?" Lu Lixing spoke to the bronze box under his breath. Out of the blue, he caught a glimpse of a golden light fleeting across its surface. Doubting his own eyes for a moment, he was brought back to reality when the massive rune train came to a gradual halt, and the sound of the station announcement filled his ears. His stop had arrived. It was time to disembark. He gave the unaltered bronze box one last glance before tucking it back into his waist pouch and stepping off the rune train onto the slum's solitary platform. Inhaling the slum's distinctively sour stench, a slight look of contentment crossed Lu Lixing's face. It wasn't a penchant for self-punishment that brought this on, but a pure comfort with the slum's polluted air. It felt like coming home. Lu Lixing's abode was a modest 2-story structure close to the platform. The first floor served as his living quarters, while the second was his place of cultivation. Dinner time had come, yet Lu Lixing felt no urgency to eat. His plan was to ascend to the second floor, immerse himself in rune meditation, and only after 2 hours of cultivation would he sit down for his meal. The so-called cultivation room on the second floor was nothing more than a dilapidated futon and a worn rune chandelier, simplicity at its finest. Lu Lixing settled onto the futon, casually placing his waist pouch beside him, ready to slip into a meditative trance. That's when a soft golden glow began to emanate from the pouch, reminiscent of a tiny sun trapped inside a bag, radiating intense heat. Staring at the luminous pouch, Lu Lixing's eyes widened in astonishment. As he reached out to investigate, the tattered pouch disintegrated into fine dust, revealing the bronze box within. Ads by PubFuture. The intense golden light was beaming from the box itself. The light grew stronger and more abundant, eventually shaping itself into a golden door as tall as a man right before Lu Lixing. The bronze box had transformed into the door's frame, exuding a profound, ancient vibe, like a colossal beast from the depths of antiquity slowly stirring from its slumber. As Lu Lixing grappled with his astonishment at the bronze box's transformation, the bronze door radiating golden light suddenly unleashed a powerful suction, pulling him through its threshold. Where am I? Lu Lixing found himself adrift in an infinite expanse of stars, with a massive continent floating before him. Countless stone pillars rose from its surface, each inscribed with intricate and mysterious runes that exuded an aura of ancient desolation. The sight of the seemingly infinite stone pillars and runes left Lu Lixing dumbfounded. In his 17 years of life, he had never witnessed such a majestic spectacle. The innumerable golden runes before him appeared to merge into a vast ocean, bobbing and weaving with a heart-pounding force. Without warning, the towering stone pillars on the continent began to crumble, and the endless runes cascaded down like leaves in the wind. The power they harbored, akin to wild beasts breaking free from captivity, erupted with a cataclysmic fury that shattered the continent to its core. As the continent fell apart and the stone pillars met their end, the golden runes, having unleashed their unparalleled ferocity, slowly started to fade away. In the brink of their extinction, a small bronze box emerged from the debris. In a flash, it transformed into a colossal bronze door, exerting a fierce pull on the cosmos, drawing in all the floating runes and with them, the silhouette of Lu Lixing. Boom. Time lost all meaning until a thunderous noise jolted Lu Lixing awake, his consciousness resurfacing. His body lay afloat like driftwood on the sea, carried by the current. The sight of the ocean beneath him, a boundless sea composed of countless golden runes, left him utterly astonished. In that instant, Lu Lixing's mind seemed to detonate like a supernova, waves of information crashing into his thoughts without end. Overwhelmed by the deluge, he lost consciousness. Meanwhile, the sea of runes beneath him transformed into gentle streams, infusing Lu Lixing's body with their essence, as if the world's most potent elixir was revitalizing his every sinew and bone. Contact. 2s. Winter sale must-haves. Top trends. Prices you'll love. Graph. Divine Talisman Grandmaster. C3. C3 Talent Rune. Boom. A clap of thunder roared within Lu Lixing's mind, jolting his dormant consciousness awake. A complex and mystical rune hovered silently in his mental realm, its structure reminiscent of a thunderbolt crashing down from the skies, radiating an enigmatic and awe-inspiring divine presence. That thunderclap had emanated from this very rune. Overwhelmed by the rune's power, which seemed to resonate with his own bloodline, Lu Lixing shuddered with uncontrollable excitement. He had actually awakened his talent rune. The talent rune marked the beginning of one's journey into cultivation. Only by awakening this rune could one harness its power to draw in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, thus embarking on the path of cultivation. Put simply, only those who had awakened their talent rune were deemed worthy of being true cultivators, while those who failed to do so would never set foot on the path of cultivation in their lifetime. Typically, one would awaken their talent rune in university, with the aid of a mentor. It was rare for someone to do so in high school. Those who managed to awaken their talent rune during their high school years were invariably prodigies, 1 in a million. For instance, in Skyhaven's Forest Lake Academy, only 4 individuals had achieved this feat, each backed by formidable connections that allowed them to awaken their talent rune ahead of their peers. Now, Lu Lixing had become the 5th person at Forest Lake Academy to awaken his talent rune. By awakening his talent rune, Lu Lixing had earned the right to cultivate. He had stepped through the gateway to becoming a cultivator. With just one more cultivation technique, he could swiftly ascend to the chi refining stage. As the thought of a cultivation technique crossed his mind, a surge of tremendous power burst forth from the lightning-shaped talent rune, transforming into a myriad of shimmering blue glyphs that etched themselves deeply into Lu Lixing's mental realm. The lightning-swallowing rune. A cultivation technique. Eyes wide with astonishment, Lu Lixing struggled to grasp the reality that he had not only awakened his talent rune but had also serendipitously acquired a cultivation technique. Amidst his shock, a series of knocks echoed from downstairs. The sound snapped Lu Lixing back to the present. He instinctively glanced toward the door. Though his eyes saw only the floor of the cultivation room, his mind conjured the image of a youthful girl clad in a white dress, standing just outside. Not just the adolescent girl, but every item in the ground floor room, the worn-out sofa, the half-shattered coffee table, and a filthy gray rat cowering in the corner, appeared vividly in Lu Lixing's mind as if he were seeing them firsthand. His perception encompassed everything within a 10-meter radius. Is this what perception feels like? Lu Lixing was unsure, as this was an entirely new experience for him. He knew that such sensory abilities typically required one's brain domain to be developed beyond 50%, yet his was only at 25%, a full half less than needed. While Lu Lixing was deep in thought, an urgent knocking and a somewhat icy voice echoed from downstairs. Lu Lixing, are you there or not? Upon hearing the call, Lu Lixing hurriedly rose and made his way down. It was only then that he noticed the black muck covering his body, its foul odor making him instinctively wrinkle his nose. Bang! The sound of pounding at the door was followed by the collapse of the severely aged smart security door, which fell with a crash and raised a cloud of dust. Ads by PubFuture. PubFuture ads. Lu Lixing glanced at the door now lying on the floor, then turned his attention to Shofin, who was slowly entering. He pressed his lips together and asked, "What brings you here? What do you think? If I hadn't come, what would you have done to yourself?" Shofin's gaze was filled with disdain as she looked at the grimy figure of Lu Lixing. "I've told you before, we're from different worlds. No matter if you shut yourself away for days on end, avoiding school and work, it won't change that fact. It's time to let go." The visitor was none other than Shofin, the girl who had severed ties with Lu Lixing on the rooftop of Forest Lake Academy. She had assumed that would be the end of it, but to her dismay, Lu Lixing had vanished from school for 3 whole days since that incident, and he was nowhere to be found at his usual job. Concerned that Lu Lixing might do something rash, Shofin reluctantly decided to seek him out herself. Shofin's concern wasn't for Lu Lixing's well-being, she simply didn't want her reputation tarnished by his death. Upon hearing her words, Lu Lixing glanced at the old electronic clock on the wall, surprised. It was 2 p.m. on December 5th, yet he distinctly remembered it being 6 p.m. on December 2nd when he last went home. That meant he had spent a full 3 days in the cultivation room. As the realization of time lost hit him, a fierce hunger erupted in Lu Lixing's stomach, feeling as though it were on fire. His body, once strong, now felt weak and frail. In his mind, there was only one thought: eat. With eyes blazing red, Lu Lixing lunged at the nearby refrigerator, yanking out heaps of bread and synthetic meat and devouring them with a ravenous frenzy, like a starving ghost reborn. Shofin watched Lu Lixing gorge himself on the floor, the revolting odor emanating from him intensifying her disgust. She had been right. Lu Lixing was leveraging his life to manipulate her. Why else would he allow himself to become so desperately famished? "What will it take for you to leave me alone?" she demanded. Lu Lixing, seemingly oblivious to her question, continued to eat voraciously. He wiped his greasy hands on the tablecloth before grabbing another chunk of synthetic meat and shoving it into his mouth, his face smeared with grease. Shofin's patience evaporated as she watched Lu Lixing's unkempt display. With a stern expression, she declared, "I will give back every single cultivation resource I borrowed from you. After that, our paths will never cross again. Your fate is of no concern to me." With those cold words, Shofin turned on her heel and strode away, eager to escape the squalor and its unbearable stench. Contact. 2s. Divine Talisman Grandmaster. C4. C4 Brute Bowler A. Burp. Lu Lixing sprawled on the floor, letting out a contented belch. He had devoured every edible item in the refrigerator, banishing the gnawing hunger at last and feeling rejuvenated. He couldn't pinpoint the cause of his sudden, ravenous appetite, but he was acutely aware of the boundless energy that now coursed through him after his feast, an entirely new sensation. The mingling sense of food and his own foul odor assaulted Lu Lixing's senses, compelling him to rise and make a beeline for the shower. An hour's worth of scrubbing washed away the grime, revealing a tall, imposing figure beneath the cascade of water. Dried off and standing before the mirror, Lu Lixing admired the defined muscle contours and the latent explosive strength they harbored. A realization crystallized in his mind. He was no longer the laughingstock everyone deemed worthless. He had grown stronger in a mere night and 3 days. The catalyst for this transformation was the bronze box he had nearly sold in haste. The thought of the box propelled Lu Lixing, clad only in a bath towel, to the second-floor cultivation room. Where the bronze box once sat by the meditation mat, now lay a simple bronze ring. Gazing at the ring on the floor, Lu Lixing was certain it was connected to the bronze box, possibly another manifestation of it. With this in mind, he gingerly slipped the bronze ring onto his left pinky, a perfect fit. The ring may not have revealed any mystical qualities yet, but Lu Lixing resolved to keep its existence his most closely guarded secret, never to be shared with another soul. Dressed and settled back on the meditation mat, Lu Lixing focused intently on sensing every nuance of change within his body. This mastery over his physical state assured him that his brain domain had undergone significant expansion in the last 3 days. The exact extent was unknown, but he was confident it was no less than 50%. Above all, what captivated Lu Lixing's attention was the awakening of the talent rune and the practice of the lightning swallowing technique. Upon activating the lightning attribute talent rune, Lu Lixing also acquired a cultivation technique of the same attribute. He sensed that this was no mere coincidence but a serendipitous adventure. Without a moment's delay, Lu Lixing embarked on his life's first cultivation journey, guided by the incantations of the lightning swallowing rune. The cosmos is profound and yellow, the origin of all spirits. I cultivate my lightning rune to manifest my divine powers. As Lu Lixing delved into his practice, a faint thunderous rumble emanated from within him. Soon after, a delicate blue current of electricity emerged, enveloping his body in a dance of ebb and flow, an endless cycle of appearance and disappearance. Completing one full cycle of the technique, Lu Lixing paused, his face etched with contemplation. To truly master the lightning swallowing rune, mere meditation wouldn't suffice, he needed the power of thunder. The essence of the technique was to absorb this force and make it his own. Without the aid of the power of thunder, reaching the first layer of the lightning swallowing rune could take him upwards of 2 years. Amidst his thoughts on cultivation, Lu Lixing's phone abruptly rang. It was old man Za, the proprietor of the rune shop where he worked part-time. Barely had Lu Lixing answered the call when a bellowing voice assaulted his ears, nearly deafening him. Kid, you finally decided to answer your phone. Where have you vanished these past 3 days? The shop's swamped. Did you get last month's paycheck and think about skipping town, huh? Would you believe I'd drag you back from school to work? With a wry smile, Lu Lixing responded, I'm on my way to the shop now, I'll be there shortly. Ads by PubFuture. PubFuture ads. He hung up before old man Za could retort. Cultivation mattered, but so did his job. Provoking Za was the last thing he wanted, finding another job as convenient and fitting as this one would be no small feat. Reflecting on this, Lu Lixing immediately rose and made his way downstairs. He paused, taken aback, when he spotted the door sprawled on the ground, and it dawned on him that Sha Shofan had come looking for him earlier that afternoon. Recalling the words Sha Shofan had said to him, a subtle smile crept onto Lu Lixing's face. Perhaps you're right, we truly are from different worlds. Za's rune shop was situated in Skyhaven's burgeoning new district. The prime location boasted a specialty in selling a variety of meditation runes and cultivation resources, while also providing repairs for an array of magical tools. The shop enjoyed brisk business, and Lu Lixing's role was to assist customers with their purchases of cultivation resources. Repairing magical tools, however, was beyond his expertise. Upon Lu Lixing's arrival at the shop, he found Za tending to the bustling trade. Za's cheerful demeanor quickly soured at the sight of Lu Lixing, and he grumbled irritably, get moving, kid, and take care of the customers. I've got a magic tool to fix. With a smile, Lu Lixing stepped in to handle Za's responsibilities, warmly guiding customers through the selection of cultivation resources. 5 minutes later, having bid farewell to a contented customer, he finally had the chance to turn his attention to Za, who sat deep in thought, furrowing his brow over a watch-like magic tool. In quieter moments, devoid of customers, Lu Lixing enjoyed standing by Za's side, observing the repair of magical tools. Though the intricacies eluded him, he was fond of the atmosphere. This occasion was no different, and he positioned himself next to Za, ready to watch the master at work. Glancing at the watch cradled in Za's hands, Lu Lixing chuckled and remarked offhandedly, this watch's owner was quite careless to damage the barbarian bull array on it. Fixing this is going to be quite the task. Za, engrossed in his examination of the watch, glanced at Lu Lixing with a hint of surprise upon hearing his comment. You've got a knack for this, don't you? You used to be baffled by even the simplest level 1 array, and now you've identified a level 2 barbarian bull array and discerned how the watch got damaged. Your eye for detail has sharpened in just 3 days. Tell me, have you encountered this barbarian bull array somewhere before? Upon hearing Za's remark, Lu Lixing was momentarily taken aback. He had instinctively named the bull array when he noticed the rune on the watch, yet he had never encountered the bull array until today. Despite the whirlwind of questions in his mind, Lu Lixing responded, I've seen this model on a classmate's watch before, which is how I recognize the bull array. I knew there was a reason you suddenly seemed so perceptive. Za let out a chuckle, bending over to resume his work on the watch. Meanwhile, Lu Lixing, standing by his side, felt a surge of excitement and was eager to conduct an experiment. Contact. 2s. Divine Talisman Grandmaster. C5. C5 Rune Master. Spiritual Water Array, Inferno Talisman Array, Strength Talisman Array, and this Level 2 Gale Talisman Array. Lu Lixing stood before the counter holding the damaged magical instruments, his eyes methodically scanning each one. He could effortlessly call out the names of the arrays etched into the instruments, and he even felt confident that he could repair these damaged arrays himself. Consider that even Za, a Level 3 refiner, had to consult the rune treasure book to identify these arrays, yet Lu Lixing recognized them at a mere glance. Could this incredible stroke of luck have not only awakened my talent rune and granted me a cultivation technique but also opened up the possibility of becoming a rune master? In the Stardragon Federation, cultivators are held in the highest esteem, and the most revered among them are the rune masters. Each Rune Master is a treasured guest among the various powers, not to be offended lightly. Sadly, becoming a Rune Master requires not just talent but also substantial financial backing. Thus, it's not guaranteed that even 1 in 10,000 cultivators could achieve such a status, highlighting the scarcity and value of Rune Masters. Take Skyhaven, for instance. Among its 20 million residents, there are roughly 3,000 cultivators, but only 2 are Rune Masters. Out of tens of thousands of high school students, fewer than 100 have the potential to become Rune Masters, and of those, perhaps not even 10 will actually make it. Moreover, even those touted as prodigies with limitless potential don't possess the keen insight that Lixing does. This could be my big break. Lixing exhaled deeply, tempering his excitement with the knowledge that potential alone doesn't guarantee success as a Rune Master. He was acutely aware that many gifted individuals had failed to achieve this esteemed title for various reasons. As a poor youngster without financial backing or a mentor, Lixing understood that his journey to becoming a Rune Master would be far more challenging than most. Some things can't be achieved with talent alone, money is also essential. What are you spacing out for, kid? Za had appeared behind Lixing without notice, extending a blue suitcase toward him. This is Mr. Wen's magic tool from Forest Lake Academy. It's been repaired. You need to deliver it. Delivering repaired items to customers was part of Lixing's job, actually a major part. With work to be done, he had to put his curiosity about the array on hold, took the suitcase from Za, and strode out the door. Lixing reached the school just as classes were letting out. A flood of students poured from the building, clogging the entrance. He waited patiently by the wall, deciding to go in once the crowd thinned. On a normal day, Lixing, the so-called loser from the ordinary class, would go unnoticed. But today was different. The students exiting the school gave him odd looks. Is that Lixing? The deadbeat from the common class? Yeah, that's him. A toad lusting after swan meat, constantly bothering the snow goddess. Does he really think he can compete with Zhang? That guy's a genius from the key class. What's he thinking? He's way out of his league. They stood near Lixing, pointing and speaking without restraint, clearly not taking him seriously. Lixing frowned at the surrounding whispers. Just then, a portly figure barreled toward him, urgency written all over his face. Why are you at school now? Come on, we've got to go. The chubby boy was Sha Zhenghao, Lixing's best friend at school and a fellow student in the ordinary class. Known for his playful demeanor, Sha Zhenghao's current anxiety was a first for Lixing. Why should I go? I've got work to do. Ads by PubFuture. PubFuture ads. Lixing brandished the briefcase in his hand and said, this belongs to the black masked god, old Joe. If I don't deliver it on time, do you think he wouldn't hesitate to twist my head off? Sha Zhenghao, however, was unfazed. He grabbed Lixing's arm, ready to make a swift exit. Old Joe, twisting your head is a problem for another day. But if you don't get out of here now, you're going to face something far worse than his wrath. Lixing's eyebrows shot up at Sha Zhenghao's grave tone. Is this about Sha Shofan or Zhang? Despite his less than stellar academic record, Lixing was no fool. Piecing together the whispers he'd overheard and Sha Zhenghao's urgency to get him off campus, it wasn't hard to deduce someone was gunning for him. If he couldn't see that, he'd have wasted all his years. You know Zhang is out to get you, and you still show your face at school. Sha Zhenghao gave an exasperated eye roll. He'd never noticed his friend's talent for quietly charming the elite class's goddess, Sha Shofan. But mulling over that was a luxury they couldn't afford at the moment, they needed to make themselves scarce. As Sha Zhenghao was about to pull Lixing away, a chilly voice cut through the air behind them. Are you Lixing? The speaker was tall and striking, clad in the tailored uniform reserved for the important class's prodigies. His piercing black and white eyes regarded Lixing with a mix of disdain and superiority. Lixing turned to face him, a crease forming in his brow. I'm Lixing. And you are, bro, you're in deep trouble. That's Yuan Ba, Zhang right-hand man from the important class. While Lixing didn't recognize Yuan Ba, Sha Zhenghao was all too aware of who he was. Yuan Ba had made a name for himself at the school, not for his academic achievements, but for his notorious ruthlessness. Yuan Ba was known for his arrogance and tyranny. As a self-proclaimed genius of the elite class, he looked down on everyone else. If a student from a regular class ever crossed him, Yuan Ba would ruthlessly break their legs in retaliation. To date, over 30 individuals have suffered this fate, with many seeing their futures shattered. Yet, with Zhang protection, Yuan Ba repeatedly dodged the school's discipline. Consequently, no one dared to cross him, and they would deferentially address him as Mr. Yuan upon meeting him. Clearly, Yuan Ba's current target, Lixing, was in his sights because of Zhang. With a menacing look, Yuan Ba glared at Chen Tang and spoke in a chilling tone, you don't need to know who I am. All you need to understand is that you're not leaving this school on your own 2 legs today. Your legs are mine. Contact. 2s. Divine Talisman Grandmaster. C6. C6 again. I'm taking those legs of yours. Yuan Ba's menacing proclamation silenced the bustling school entrance in an instant. Every lingering student turned, almost involuntarily, toward the source of the voice. Upon recognizing the infamous figure from the advanced class, a mix of awe and curiosity flickered in their eyes. Who was the unfortunate soul to have crossed paths with the notorious Yuan Ba? It didn't take long for the crowd to spot Lixing, following Yuan Ba's steely gaze. The sight of Lixing's faded, whitened uniform, a clear marker of the common class, elicited looks of sympathy from the onlookers. Not even the students from the advanced or elite classes would dare to rile up Yuan Ba. And here was Lixing, a mere common class student, doing just that. He must have a death wish. While the crowd deemed Lixing's actions suicidal, Lixing himself thought Yuan Ba was full of hot air. He scrutinized Yuan Ba with a hint of curiosity and asked, genuinely perplexed, you seem to come from a decent family, and with the talent to be in the advanced class, why would you choose thuggery over actual learning? Sha Junghao, standing next to Lu Lixing, was frantically trying to figure out how to extricate his friend from Yuan Ba's clutches. But upon hearing Lu Lixing's bold words, he turned, wide-eyed and slack-jawed. Dude, you're like searching for death with a lantern in a toilet. Yuan Ba paused, then his lips curled into a sinister smile, dark and foreboding like storm clouds ready to burst. How amusing. It's been ages since anyone has dared to challenge me like this. His gaze sharpening, Yuan Ba sneered, if you're so eager to meet your end, I'll be happy to oblige. Without waiting for a response, Yuan Ba sprang into action. He whipped out a customized baseball bat from his backpack and swung it brutally toward Lu Lixing's knees. In the crowd, the faint-hearted students instinctively shut their eyes, dreading the sight of the impending carnage. Yet, curiously, the anticipated screams of agony were nowhere to be heard. After a brief pause, the more timid students opened their eyes to gaze upon Yuan Ba and Lu Lixing. Their astonishment was palpable when they saw the scene before them. Somehow, the baseball bat that was in Yuan Ba's hands had ended up with Lu Lixing. What in the world was happening? The timid students glanced around with a touch of bewilderment in their eyes, only to find their peers staring wide-eyed, as if they had witnessed something inconceivable. Did he just take the baseball bat right out of Yuan Ba's hands? Am I hallucinating? At last, an explanation came for those who had shut their eyes in fear, but the truth was a tough pill to swallow. Yuan Ba, the notorious tough guy from the advanced class, had been disarmed by a student from the regular class. Impossible. Yet, the undeniable evidence was right before their eyes, leaving no room for doubt. No one had anticipated such an outcome, not even Yuan Ba, at the heart of the incident. He looked at the baseball bat now in Lu Lixing's possession with a mix of shock and confusion, unable to piece together the events that had just unfolded. How could he, with his strength and speed, be disarmed by the lowest-ranked student in the ordinary class? Lu Lixing, observing the bewildered look on Yuan Ba's face, felt a similar sense of confusion. Facing Yuan Ba's fierce onslaught, he had acted on instinct to grab the bat, never truly believing he could pull it off. How did I manage that? Unable to solve the puzzle, Lu Lixing extended his hand and pushed the baseball bat back into Yuan Ba's arms, challenging, let's go again. Yuan Ba, now holding the bat that Lu Lixing had forcefully returned to him, was dumbfounded. The nearby students who witnessed this were equally baffled. What was this regular class student up to? Yuan Ba quickly regained his composure, his eyes burning with anger and humiliation as he glared at Lu Lixing. Are you mocking me? He demanded. Lu Lixing's brow furrowed slightly. I'm not mocking you. Just hurry up and try again. Yuan Ba's temper flared at Lu Lixing's impatient demeanor. How could he, a prodigy of the advanced class, be looked down upon by nobody from the regular class? But Lu Lixing wasn't caught up in such thoughts, he simply wanted to experience disarming his opponent once more. However, to Yuan Ba, Lu Lixing's actions were nothing short of an insult, an ordinary class nobody trying to climb over a top-tier genius. Do you really think you're a match for me? In a rage, Yuan Ba gripped the baseball bat, channeling his full strength and speed into his swing. The bat sliced through the air, trailing afterimages, and with the wind howling, it hurtled towards Lu Lixing's right knee like a flash of lightning. Crack. A sharp sound echoed, but it wasn't the bat striking the knee, it was the sound of a wrist being tightly grasped. Yuan Ba's enraged strike was intercepted by Lu Lixing, who seized his wrist and abruptly halted the attack. Way too slow. Yuan Ba's swing was painfully sluggish. With a mere glance, Lu Lixing had penetrated Yuan Ba's offensive intent and anticipated his arm's next move. That's how he was able to strike with precision, seize Yuan Ba's wrist, and forcefully put an end to the onslaught. Was this the same genius from the honors class he used to look up to? Just as I thought, a confident smirk played on Lu Lixing's lips as he hunched his back and sank his shoulders. His left hand balled into a fist, and he launched a ferocious punch. With the force of a thunderclap, he aimed for Yuan Ba's abdomen. The strength that surged from his fist was like a river breaking through a dam, overwhelming Yuan Ba, who was still reeling from shock. OWWW. 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 Overcome with agony, Yuan Ba couldn't help but wail. Tears and snot streamed down his face as his knees buckled, and he collapsed to the ground, clutching his stomach and shaking uncontrollably. At the school entrance, onlookers gaped at Lu Lixing, their eyes wide with astonishment. They gazed at him as if he were some unfathomable creature, unable to believe that Yuan Ba, the school's two-year terror, had been taken down so effortlessly. This was the notorious Yuan Ba, the prodigy of the honors class. And you, just a regular student, how dare you be so bold? To the crowd, it was an incredible feat, but to Lu Lixing, it was trivial. He glanced down at his old digital watch and then turned to his stunned buddy, Sha Junghao, stay here. I'll be back in a flash. Having said that, Lu Lixing hoisted the suitcase off the ground and made a beeline for the campus. As for Yuan Ba, still kneeling on the ground, he was merely a lackey, hardly worth a second glance. Contact. 2s. Divine Talisman Grandmaster. C7. C7 Black Masked God. Lu Lixing, who had been brimming with confidence just moments before, now stood before Wen Shi, the stern director of academic guidance, meek as a quail and plastering on an apologetic smile. He had no choice. The rules stipulated that he needed to get the items to Wen Shi by 5 in the afternoon. But by the time he reached Wen Shi's office, it was already 10 past 5. He was a whole 10 minutes late. Standing before the formidable black masked god, Wen Shi, Lu Lixing felt at a disadvantage, his expression betraying his embarrassment. Wen Shi, as the director of the senior year, bore the responsibility of overseeing all the teachers and students in that year, including Lu Lixing. Lu Lixing was well acquainted with Wen Shi, who had earned the nickname Black Masked God not just for his stern appearance but also for his foul temper and, most critically, his disdain for those who lacked punctuality. This time, Lu Lixing had squarely landed in Wen Shi's crosshairs. With a long road ahead at the school, he feared the repercussions of this misstep. Though the esteemed director might not typically concern himself with an ordinary student, Lu Lixing couldn't help but worry. Internally, Lu Lixing had already cursed Yuan Ba countless times. If it hadn't been for that guy's sudden interference, he would never have been late. As Lu Lixing mentally berated Yuan Ba, Wen Shi suddenly broke the silence. Why are you late? Wen Shi's voice was deep and raspy, rumored to be the result of a battlefield injury that left his voice chilling and uncomfortable to hear. Lu Lixing forced a smile and said, there was a traffic jam, that's why I'm late. But I assure you, it won't happen again. Upon hearing Lu Lixing's excuse, Wen Shi let out a cold snort and remained silent. With a swift gesture, he conjured a holographic projection screen in the air before Lu Lixing. The video playing was the very scene of Lu Lixing and Yuan Ba brawling at the school entrance. Confronted with this evidence, Lu Lixing was at a loss for words. Caught lying to the black masked god on his first attempt, his luck couldn't have been worse. Lu Lixing had braced himself for a scolding from the black masked god, so it came as a complete surprise when a faint, yet unmistakably genuine smile appeared on the enigmatic figure's face. Could the black masked god actually smile? Taken aback, Lu Lixing carefully maintained a neutral expression. In his nearly 3 years at the school, he had encountered the black masked god numerous times but had never once witnessed a smile. Yuan Ba may rank at the bottom of the important class, but he does possess some skill. Your ability to defeat him with such ease is commendable, Wen Shi remarked, his gaze carrying a subtle note of admiration as if he was thoroughly pleased with Lu Lixing's handling of Yuan Ba. Lu Lixing was genuinely surprised. The black masked god hadn't reprimanded him for the brawl but instead offered praise. Could it be that Yuan Ba's arrogance had previously offended the black masked god, and now he was delighted to see Lu Lixing put Yuan Ba in his place? Unaware of Lu Lixing's inner turmoil, Wen Shi continued, undisturbed by what he might be thinking. He fixed Lu Lixing with a steady look and inquired, you gave the baseball bat back to Yuan Ba and allowed him to strike at you again because you were uncertain about how you disarmed him the first time, correct? Yes, Lu Lixing responded candidly, still perplexed by the incident and unsure of how he had managed it. Ads by PubFuture. PubFuture ads. Wen Shi offered a calm explanation, it's a matter of brain domain suppression. Your brain domain development far exceeds Yuan Ba's, allowing you to anticipate his moves and respond accordingly. The reason you're unaware of how you accomplished this is that your brain domain was initially underdeveloped. It has since surged due to certain special circumstances, and you haven't had the chance to adjust to this newfound power. You understand what happened, but not how it happened. So, you must have experienced some extraordinary event recently, haven't you? Listening to Wen Shi's explanation, Lu Lixing found himself nodding along subconsciously, his face lighting up with a dawning comprehension. But at Wen Shi's final words, Lu Lixing's expression darkened abruptly, his gaze toward Wen Shi turning icy in an instant. Wen Shi, observing Lu Lixing's wariness, wasn't upset in the slightest. In fact, he seemed quite pleased. With a slight nod, he said, your recent stroke of luck doesn't pique my interest. My point is simply to caution you, your victory over Yuan Ba today is bound to draw attention. There will be those who will investigate and probe, trying to uncover the cause of your transformation. Surely, you don't believe that an ordinary student besting a prodigy from the important class is a trivial feat. Be vigilant and guard your privacy. Your power is still too fragile, there are adversaries you're not yet equipped to face. I'm gratified to see that you haven't let your newfound fortunes inflate your ego or cloud your judgment. Hearing Wen Shi's candid explanation and seeing the genuine expression on his face, Lu Lixing understood that Wen Shi truly had no interest in his extraordinary experience. While relieved, he also became more cautious. Just because Wen Shi wasn't curious didn't mean others wouldn't be. From now on, he'd need to be constantly on the lookout for any subtle tests, lest he inadvertently give something away and find himself unable to fend off the advances of a true power player. Come on, let's test the current level of your brain domain development. Wen Shi rose to his feet and with a casual wave of his hand, the wall behind him turned translucent, revealing a sprawling training room of over 100 square meters. It was Wen Shi's personal space for secluded cultivation, a place seldom entered by others. Lu Lixing's eyes couldn't hide the envy that flickered through them as he took in the opulent training room before him. His own so-called training space paled in comparison to this real sanctuary, it was barely fit for a dog in contrast. Fists clenched, Lu Lixing resolved that one day he too would possess a training room like this, or perhaps something even grander. To effectively suppress in the realm of the brain domain, you need to surpass the other's development by at least 5%, Wen Shi explained, turning to face Lu Lixing. Yuan Ba's brain domain is at 55%, meaning you need to be at 60% or higher. Yet, your records show a development of only 25%. I'm genuinely intrigued. What kind of remarkable encounter did you have that could surge your brain domain's development to such heights? It's worth noting that even Zhang Tu, who's in the elite class, has achieved just 68% in brain domain development. OR download the app directly down finger. Contact. 2's. Divine Talisman Grandmaster. C8. C8 a special surprise. Wen Shi wasn't the only one driven by curiosity, Lu Lixing was equally intrigued about the extent to which his brain domain had developed. In the past, hearing that Zhang Tu had achieved a 68% development in his brain domain would have sparked intense envy in Lu Lixing. But now, he harbored the confidence to reach, and perhaps even exceed, that same level. So, when Wen Shi brought up Zhang Tu, it wasn't envy that stirred in Lu Lixing, but a surge of competitiveness. He made a silent vow to outdo Zhang Tu. As Wen Shi spoke of Zhang Tu, he kept a watchful eye on Lu Lixing's expressions. Seeing the self-assured look that crossed Lu Lixing's face, Wen Shi nodded subtly, his fondness and approval for Lu Lixing growing stronger. Wen Shi had encountered numerous civilian geniuses, many of whom would kowtow to the scions of noble families for the slightest bit of cultivation resources. He had no desire to see Lu Lixing succumb to the same fate, becoming nothing more than a pawn for the aristocracy. Meanwhile, Lu Lixing's gaze flitted excitedly around the cultivation room, much like a country lady marveling at the wonders of a grand estate. His eyes sparkled with curiosity and longing for every detail. That must be the advanced rest pod I've heard about, right? They say an hour of sleep in there is as restorative as 3 hours outside. Imagine how much extra time that would free up for training. And is that a gravity chamber? Rumored to adjust gravity up to 20 times the normal force. If one could get used to that level of gravity and then return to normal conditions, their speed and strength would be incredibly enhanced. That is, Lixing knew each piece of equipment in the room from his online research, but this was his first encounter with them in the flesh. His attention was now wholly captivated by the devices before him. Owning a cultivation room like this was a dream so grand that he'd probably laugh himself awake. When she, observing the unguarded look of envy and aspiration on Lixing's face, felt a pang of nostalgia. His own first encounter with a cultivation room had elicited a similar reaction, filled with the same mix of envy and desire. Yet now, with such resources at his disposal, he found himself seldom using them for cultivation. As time marches on, everything changes, nothing remains as it was in bygone days. Quit staring, you're practically drooling. Seeing Lixing now, Wen Shi couldn't help but see a reflection of his younger self. It became difficult for him to maintain his stern demeanor. He pressed his lips together briefly before saying to Lixing, if the development of your brain domain reaches a level that satisfies me, then I'll let you train in my cultivation room for 1 day each week. Wen Shi could easily allow Lixing to use his cultivation room anytime, but that might not be in Lixing's best interest. He wanted Lixing to constantly long for and look forward to the cultivation room, to drive him to train diligently and value this hard-earned opportunity. Upon hearing Wen Shi's offer, Lixing's eyes went wide with incredulity. He gasped, really? Can I actually train here? You get 1 day a week, Wen Shi